Hey all, we are going to be talking modes this live stream. Thanks for joining. It's cool to see everyone on, and we're going to be geeking out about some music theory. And yes, Virtuous Heretic, I was tuning my guitar. If you were here last week, my guitar totally fell. It's fine, but was trying to save the pain of having a detuned guitar on this one, because we're going to be going through some good examples of songs in different modes. And in the US, today is, if you're not in the US, you may not know of something called Labor Day that we have here. It's not a major holiday, but it is, it's for many people, it's a day off, and it's to celebrate or acknowledge people who work, the working person. And so along those lines, we're going to walk through different song examples with the general theme of work. And so I've found some songs that are about working, and it's interesting how all of these examples happen to come from the 80s, 1980s. It seems like that was in the air, working themes. You had, like the movies like 9 to 5, and I think Wall Street was in the 80s, and Big Business, and it was just like it was the theme. If you were a kid, all of the movies in the 80s were about kidnapping. It was just there were common themes. So we're not going to do any songs about kidnapping, but we are going to do some songs about Labor Day and work. And as I play each one, we're gonna dissect each one and see if you can hear it, and then also we're going to see it, what the mode is for each of these songs. So as you're if you let me know where you're coming from, I always love to hear. And then also, if you're part of the replay crew, let us know where you're at as well. So let us jump into the first song, and it is by Dolly Parton, who actually is an excellent songwriter. I always liked Dolly Parton's stuff, but it wasn't until a few years ago that I really realized what an excellent songwriter she is. So this song is 9 to 5, if you've heard of it. And the lyrics are, and as I'm playing along these songs, I don't have the lyrics memorized, so we'll kind of see what the general theme is, and then I'm just going to kind of like scat sing the songs for each one. But the lyrics are: tumble out of bed and stumble to the kitchen, pour myself a cup of ambition and yawn and stretch and try to come to life. I mean, right there, those are great lyrics. Dolly Parton is excellent, and the melody and the chord progression is awesome too, as you'll see. And then jump into the shower and the blood starts pumping out in the streets. The traffic starts jumping for folks like me on the job from 9 to 5. And then it goes into the chorus: working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living, barely getting by, and it's all taken and no giving. They just use your mind and they never give you credit. It's enough to drive you crazy if you let it. So it's actually a really good song. So let's look at the chord progression of 9 to 5. And if you're somewhat new to modes, you might just see that as a bunch of chords. But the more and more you go, it'll start to really jump out what is going on here. And you can start to like identify it by ear and by eyesight, like almost immediately. So it's the chord progression is boom, boom, boom. So it's F sharp, to B, to F sharp, to C sharp, F sharp, B, F sharp, or C sharp to F sharp, and then a working B, 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 B major to F sharp major, F sharp major to B, B major to G sharp major to C sharp major to F sharp. So it's F sharp. So it's down 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 down. working 9 to 5. What a way to make a living. And then it comes back to F sharp. So F sharp is the point of resolution. So right away, you begin with and end on that F sharp. So that F sharp is the first major clue in what we're dealing with it. So it's in the key of F sharp. So let's go to our circle of fifths, and we're going to say that F sharp is the 1. So let's just move the grouping layer out of the way for now. And let's just kind of see what we're dealing with here if F sharp is the 1. So we have the chords that are involved here are, we've got an F sharp, we've got a B. So let's move the grouping over so that we're dealing with those so far. So we have F sharp and B, and then we have a C sharp, also known as D flat. So we're going to move this over here so that it includes that chord. And then also included is a G sharp major chord. But you can see that we're already using these 3. And so if we add that 1, it's not going to fit all 4. So with F sharp being 1 and including both a B and a C sharp means that it is in F sharp Ionian, or the key of F sharp. And then we have this major 2 chord, G sharp major, which turns out that it's a secondary dominant to F sharp major's 5 chord. So it's a secondary dominant to F sharp's dominant, which brings us home to F sharp. So it's this nice movement. So if we look at the song again with these numerals in place, we have 9 to 5 is in the key of F sharp. So F sharp is 1. And so we have a 1. So right away, we already know that every F sharp can be a 1. Once you identify the tonic, that is like a nice, it helps ground you, orient you in what you're dealing with. And then it moves to the 4 chord a lot. That 1 to 4 is a lot of the movement. But then we get that 5 that builds some tension. And then that 5 again rounds out the verse to bring us back to the 1 to reestablish F sharp as the 1. And then, so this is the verse section. And then this is the chorus section. And notice how the chorus starts on a 4. So instead of starting on an F sharp, like the verse does, it starts on the subdominant, which is a fancy name for the major 4 chord. So we've got the 4, and then we have back to the 1, and then the 4, and then we go into this secondary dominant into the dominant. So what that looks like in the circle of fifths is we've got 1 to 4, 1 to 5. It's really basic that way, and that's partly why it sounds so good, is it's just these very consonant chords within a major key. And then the chorus is 4 to 1, 4, and then instead of going to 1, we come over here and we're like, all right, we're going to run home. It's like we go to, way out here to the secondary dominant, the major 2 chord, and then the major 5 chord. And then by the time we get to that 1, it is just super satisfying. So it's 9 to 5, what a way to make a living, back to 1, to the major 4, to that secondary dominant, to the dominant chord, back to 1. So if you're ever looking to play some Dolly Parton, and specifically 9 to 5, this happens to be in the key of F sharp. And by using the circle of fifths, using the chord map here, we were able to quickly identify it being F sharp Ionian specifically. And you can hear it. There's a lot of that, 1, 4, 5, 1, which are really prominent chords in a major key. So that is the first song that we're going to look at. The next song is also from the 80s, and it's very 80s. So in fact, I don't really know this artist, and I've only kind of heard this song somewhat indirectly on the radio over the years, but it is a song about work on the theme of Labor Day, and it's in a different mode. And so it's a song called She Works Hard for the Money. If you go to Ultimate Guitar, there's not a whole lot of transcriptions of this song, but it is actually a really good chord progression. So it's definitely worth looking at. And like I say, it's in a different mode. And so I want to see if you can hear it just by ear. There's definitely a difference between this and the first example. And then also we're going to specifically zero in on what the mode is using music theory to dissect this song like really fast. So she works hard for the money. So the lyrics are, she works hard for the money. And you're going to find out where the song title came from because it's not as inventive as Dolly Parton's lyrics, but so hard for it, honey. She works hard for the money, so you better treat her right. She works hard for the money, so hard for it, honey. She works hard for the money, so you better treat her right. So out of the gate, it's not as engaging lyrically, but the chord progression definitely makes up for some of that weakness as far as the lyrics go. And then it just kind of tells the story. I'm not going to get into the details, but she's just kind of telling, it's like a character study of this lady who is, you know, trying to make ends meet and all of that good stuff. So let's look at the chord progression of She Works Hard for the Money. And it starts with a G sharp minor chord. So already it's going to have a different sound. So let's get that to the right size here. And it goes like this. She works hard for the money. So it already has kind of a more melancholy vibe to it. So I'm wondering if any of these chords kind of jump out at you as a certain kind of mode. So it starts with an F sharp, or sorry, not an F sharp, a G sharp minor chord, and it goes to an F sharp major, C sharp minor, D sharp minor, G sharp minor. So let's look at the circle of fifths and see what we can find here. And let's just move the mode. So G sharp minor is that point of resolution. It is the tonic chord. So let's align the one with G sharp minor, and the circle of fifths has all of the major chords in this inner ring, all of the minor chords in this middle ring, and all of the diminished chords in this outer ring, with all of the keys in the circle of fifths as neighbors. So let's find the G sharp minor chord, which is right here. This needs to be a 1. Minor chord, again, is in the middle ring. So we're going to rotate. Let's just get the grouping way out of the way so it's not distracting. And let's rotate the this minor 1 to align with G sharp minor. And then let's find what chords are in the song. So we got a G sharp minor and an F sharp major and a C sharp minor and a D sharp minor. So let's get the grouping around those. And it looks like we're in G sharp Aeolian, which is a fancy name for G sharp minor. And let's just make sure that the other chords seem to make sense. So in the verse section, it's G sharp minor, F sharp major, which is a flat major 7 chord, and then a C sharp minor, so minor 4 to a D sharp minor, minor 5, back to that minor 1. Okay, and then it goes to the verse section. That was the chorus, and then the verse section is G sharp minor to this E major, so a flat major 6, and then a C sharp minor to a D sharp major chord, and then minor 1. So it's all mostly Ion or Aeolian. A lot of people say Aeolian. I used to say Aeolian for the longest time until I found out that it's really technically pronounced Aeolian. So that's why it maybe sounds weird to your ears, but that's so they say the correct pronunciation. So we have G sharp, Aeolian, but what's up with this major 5 chord? Because in the chorus, we go to this minor 5 and it sounds good, but to build extra tension, throwing in that major 5 actually sounds really good because it's still it's the major dominant. And so instead of a minor 5, it's a major 5 to that 1 chord, and it just builds up extra harmonic tension. And in a harmonic minor scale, the harmonic minor is very much like the Aeolian or the minor scale, but it includes a major 5. Harmonic implies that it's a scale that's built for harmonies, with that major 5 sounding especially good as a point of resolution or as a route to the point of resolution with the minor 1. So Donna Summer, good on you. I don't know if she had anything to do with the lyrics, the song, the melody, or anything, or she just performed the song. But whoever came up with that chord progression, so a minor 1 to a major 5. Well, let's show the diagram here. So we've got a minor 1, G sharp minor, to F sharp major, flat major 7, to minor 4, C sharp minor, to minor 5, D sharp minor, back to 1, G sharp minor, and then in the verse, so that it starts with the chorus. So she works hard for the money. I mean, she's repeating the theme right out of the gate because it's kind of the catchiest part of the song. And so I think they were like, let's not lose listeners' attention since the lyrics aren't that inventive. Let's just cut to the chase. And then if they're still listening, we can start to tell the story of this lady. And so the verse section actually sounds really good with the chord progression of G sharp minor, minor 1 to E major, that flat major 6 sounds really good. And then C sharp minor to that D sharp major, which is a major 5, back to 1. And I mean, the song kind of lands on a sad chord, so I don't know how the story turned out for the heroine of She Works Hard for the Money. Hopefully there was a payoff for her. But I don't know. I can't remember how the rest of the song goes, but the chord progression is awesome. And so far we have Ionian and Aeolian as examples. The third song is another one that was big in the 80s, and it is a song called Money for Nothing by Dire Straits. So it starts out, I want my MTV. So I looked into lyrics. I don't often listen to lyrics. They recede to the background when I'm listening to a song because my mind is so enthralled by the patterns of the melody and the chords and the rhythm and all that. So as I was researching the song, I was surprised to find out that there are some lyrics in here that are not great. So I'm just focusing on the lyrics here that everyone knows because it's the start of the song. So there's some lyrics in here that I don't endorse. But at the start, Sting happened to show up, just the background on the story. So Sting from the Police, this was, I think, in 1985. He happened to be visiting the studio where Dire Straits was recording this. And so it's his voice at the start that says, I want my MTV. And so the story goes, Sting didn't even want to be credited on the song, though he is one of the authors, according to the credits. And he didn't feel like he was really that involved. He just happened to be swinging by the studio. But his publisher wanted him to get credit for it because they would get paid for it, because the I want my MTV was very similar to the melody line of don't stand so close to me. So they're like, we should get credit for that. So that's why that is credited to Sting at the start. Anyway, if you know the song. So this is a really cool chord progression. Well, let's go to the chord progression. So it starts with a G minor, It's Money for Nothing, and it's a little long on the G sharp minor, but then it goes, and this is the part that I always remembered, something about microwave ovens. So that's kind of what the song is about. It's microwave oven. And goes back into G sharp minor. So this one has some kind of crazy chords that it definitely has a different sound than the first one, the first example of 9 to 5. It has a kind of more of an upbeat, and it's partly the rhythm, but has more of an upbeat sound from our last example of She Works Hard for the Money. And maybe that's because in Donna Summer song, the character works hard for the money, and so it's a little sadder, whereas Dire Straits is money for nothing. So it sounds like they're not working that hard for it. And maybe that's why it's a little more upbeat. But let's look at the chord progression in the circle of fifths on the chord map and see what this key and mode is. So it starts on a G minor chord. So again, the minor chords are in this middle ring. So G minor is right here. So we'll put that at the top. And let's just keep the grouping layer out of the way for right now. And then we're going to rotate all the numerals up to have minor 1 align with G minor. And let's see what chords we're dealing with here. And then we'll put the grouping layer in position to see what we're looking at here. So we've got G minor, minor 1, and then it goes to B flat major, flat major 3, and then 4, this C chord, which is major 4 chord. So let's just put the grouping around those so far to include those. So we've got G minor, B flat major, C, then it goes back to G minor, and then it goes to F major, which is a flat major 7. So far it's looking like we're in G Dorian, which, come to think of it, this chord progression does sound a lot like the Dorian mode. It's got kind of an upbeat, but taken the edge of the happiness off a little bit. So it's a little more melancholy or smooth. And then let's see, we've got a flat E flat chord. So we've got this flat major 6. So it looks like we're probably borrowing a chord from a neighboring mode. And then we go to B flat major, and then G minor, C, and D major, a 5, and an E. So there's definitely, it's not just staying within the mode like we were in the first two examples. We're definitely starting to borrow some chords. And so let's see what's going on here. So the chord progression with numerals looks like this. And so it's 1, minor 1, minor 1, to flat major 3, major 4, 1. I'm on that second row there. To flat major 7. So that has a very distinctive Dorian sound. And then it comes into the microwave oven part, the flat major 6 to flat major 3, flat major 6 to flat major 7, 1, 4, 5, and then major 6. So what's going on there? Because we definitely, like I say, delve into some unusual territory. So the first part is definitely Dorian, because it's just 1, flat major 3, 4, 1, flat major 7, 1. And then when we go into the microwave oven part, it's flat major 6. So we've shifted, or we've borrowed this chord from outside of the mode, but it works because it's just moving to the flat major 3, which is in the Dorian mode. And these two chords are neighbors in the circle of fifths and therefore harmonically related, compatible, and flow well together from one to the next. So those chords are sounding good. And then we just throw in the flat major 7. So all is well there. And then in this last part, this part right here, where we're starting to get a little bit spacey. So it's C, D, and then back into G minor. What's going on there in the circle of fifths is we have the minor 1 and then a 4. So we're still within Dorian, but then we move to the 5, which still works because it's a major 5 instead of the minor 5 in Dorian. It's a major 5. So those keys are compatible. Then we go to the major 6, which is definitely spacey because it's for sure outside of these modes, but the chord works well because of the movement of notes, the component notes within those chords. There's a slight shift from E major, which has a G sharp, and then it goes down to G. Or whoops, trying to play G sharp. So there's a chromatic movement, and that chromatic movement sounds spacey and isn't too far of a jump because it's just a semitone down to G minor. And because we'd already established G minor, the Dorian mode, so extensively at the start when Sting's singing "I Want My MTV," it was really established. It was just a lot. There's a drum solo at the start, and you're just really saying G minor is our tonal home base. So if we're going to deviate from that later on in the song, your ear is already primed to want to hear G minor as that tonal home base, as the tonic. So in all of the chord changes that lead up to that G minor really establish G minor as the tonic. And so now, once you establish a tonic, you can't necessarily just go anywhere in the circle of fifths and it's going to sound good. But because we're just gradually moving from C to D, okay, it's within the realm of reason. And then we go up to E, because there's that chromatic movement from G sharp down to G, it sounds good. So there's a method to the madness. There's some logic to how that progression moves. And there is kind of this, like, in the lyrics and in the progression, in that Dorian mode, it's kind of like there's a little bit of dissonance because it's with a tonic that's minor. So it's not as happy as 9 to 5. Ironically, 9 to 5, Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 is an Ionian, which is often associated with kind of a more buoyant, happy sound. And she's kind of bemoaning the fact that she's not treated well at work in that song. And then Money for Nothing is like, it seems like you would be really happy about that in theory, but not really. Because like if you don't really earn your money, or you don't feel like you earn it, it's not as satisfying as maybe some people would think. So there's kind of that tension of like, and I think the lyrics echo that vibe well. Dorian mode is a great mode for that because of that tension. It's kind of the middle ground. And I have a video about the Dorian mode being kind of like the love child between Ionian and Aeolian, because the scale itself, the mode itself, kind of incorporates intervals of both Ionian and Aeolian as that middle range. And therefore the song has that middle vibe. So I'm going to be adding these to the library, these chord charts, so you can, play along and get a feel for it. But you can see, by ear, hopefully you can hear the differences between Ionian, Aeolian, and Dorian, which are often some of the most popular because they sound so good. And then with these three examples, you can hear how you can have the same general theme of work-related lyrics, but if you just read the lyrics as poems, you'd be like, yeah, these guys are all talking about the same thing, basically. But when you add in the layer of music and modes, it helps take the song in totally different directions and is like an amplifier. It's a multiplier effect on the message that's conveyed through words alone. Yeah. So I want to jump into some of the comments here and see what is going on. Jack, I'm glad to see that you're here and safe. I'm sure, still having a wild week with all the weather that's going on. Let's see. Okay, so okay. So Rod, you said that Labor Day is the same holiday in Canada. That's cool to know. And maybe for the rest of the day, you have the opportunity to play around with some of these songs. Yeah, the 80s were all about work-related themes for some reason. Okay, so okay, Jack. So that makes sense, and hopefully you're staying dry and safe up there in Indiana. Roland Bach, cool to see you in Germany. Greetings as well at 2 a.m. Hopefully this is not putting you to sleep. The information is helpful. And after this, you get a great night's sleep knowing that you can navigate the chord map that much easier. Let's see. Well, thank you, Clifton. If you're talking to me, unless I'm just misinterpreting your comment in the chat, this is fun to geek out about music. And it's so fun to like geek out with you all about all of this. Keeney Music, you said, it sounds like it's from the 80s, even on acoustic guitar, that or an old West duel. Yeah, it's true. Like even without the all of the synthesized production of these songs, and especially that last song, I don't know if you're talking about Something for Nothing, which probably, well, that and what was it? She Works Hard for the Money. Both of those are definitely dripping in 80s. I want to say Dolly Parton is more timeless. I think partly because her lyrics are so clever and her melodies are just so good that it doesn't feel as dated as maybe some of the other artists do. And I think it's more of a production thing. I read one time, I can't remember who wrote this, but it was a really good insight. These guys, it was a couple of authors who, one of them in particular it was an audio production book is what I'm trying to say. And one of the guys was a producer on Men at Work's album, like their breakthrough album, which was definitely the 80s. And this author had innovated that kind of like high-pitched, very condensed, and super tight snare sound that you hear in Men at Work. And then after that album, it like totally just was the sound of the 80s. And they were saying that really you can pick out generally the decade of a recording based on the sound of the snare. And after I heard that, I was like, man, like you have a certain kind of snare sound, not completely, but generally the snare really does help distinguish when a recording was done. You should check it out if you haven't heard that before, because it does seem to hold up. Let's see. Okay, so William, you said, where can I find this nifty chart to purchase? This is on mycolormusic.com. There is a shop there where you'll find this and other stuff that helps you crack the code to music theory and navigate it for songwriting bliss. So definitely check it out. Let's see. So Tanji, you said She Works Hard for the Money. Chord progression has a Spanish sound to me. Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's because that is a mode that definitely shows up in, I have to hear it now that you say that. I'm going to move to that progression. So just while it's fresh, here I'll get my screen configured. So it's to it. Especially that one to the flat major 6. Yeah, the one to the has a Spanish sound for sure. I like that. That's a good, very good point. Yeah, the lyrics are on that song. I mean, it's a good song, and I think that the melody and the harmony definitely carry the song. Sometimes you'll have lyrics that I'm like, how is that even a popular song? It seems like it's just not that catchy, but it's like people connect with the lyrics, and then vice versa. Sometimes the music, often I think the music is what really catches, and then the lyrics either take it to the next level or at least hold on. Mint 711, it's cool to see you in Chicago. Welcome, and I'm glad to have you here and be geeking out with you. Let's see. And yes, William, on your question about where to find the materials. So there is a library. So there's a shop that you can just find the chord map and all of that on mycolormusic.com. And then locals, there is a library. So lots of diagrams, lessons, and all that stuff in locals if you want to check it out. And at some point it may come into play and maybe not, but lots of material there in case you're looking for some music theory. Okay, so Rodney Halsbury said, Mike, did you derive these complex chords by ear? No. So these chords, so some of these, you can find chord charts online that tell you, like Ultimate Guitar, it's crowdsourced, but that is often a resource where, they'll tell you the chords, but they don't tell you the numerals. They don't tell you the chord function. They'll just tell you, play an F sharp or play a, G sharp minor chord and then go to F sharp and then, play this G sharp minor and then a D sharp minor and a G sharp minor. So they'll just tell you what chords to play. I'm sure and then as far as the numerals go, that's where the chord map then helps break down the complex into the simple. I think the numerals may give it more of a look and feel of complexity because it's explaining the infrastructure or the wire framing from a musical theory perspective. But the chords themselves, just kind of picking them out, partly by ear and also verifying with online tools that verify, that's the chord progression, and then the chord map to understand the theory, the mode, the key, and all that. I'll be talking more for sure about identifying the tonic and understanding what the tonic is, because the tonic, like once you pin down the tonic, that helps to orient everything else, like in terms of the mode and the role or function of the respective chords after that. And sometimes when a song changes keys or shifts modes, that can kind of add to the analysis of a song. But knowing generally where to look for a tonic in a song, there are some rules of thumb that we'll talk about that help with that for sure. Sean, very cool. I'm glad this is helpful. And once you see music theory, which is, once you see sound, which is music theory by definition, it definitely, you can't unsee it. So I'm glad this is helpful, and I'm so happy you're here. Let's see. Very cool. And, playing around with it, and the more you use it, the more it just becomes like instinctive. Actually, this brings up a good point, because I was playing around with the circle of fifths with her yesterday, and she was having a hard time moving the layers because her instinct was to push. So if you have a chord map and you've experienced some friction with the different layers, here's a tip that I just have a feel for it, but I hadn't articulated it. So it is like, if you're tempted, like I'm trying to move the numerals layer counterclockwise here, and it's stuck because you don't want to push that hard. It's actually more like just gently touch it and then move, and then it should move more easily. And then likewise with the grouping layer, it's tempting to want to push hard because you think I'm going to have to grip that to like make it move. And no, actually less is more in that case. Sometimes you may also have some static cling friction because of the materials used. So in that case, you can just kind of pinch the layer up so you can kind of lift it off and release that static cling. Or you can, on the back here, push on the back to kind of lift up the layers from the board on the bottom. But for the most part, it's really just the gentle touch that will help. I know you didn't ask that, but it was something that came up yesterday and I wanted to touch on. Okay, Roland, I'm glad you're going to sleep now. That's awesome. And thank you for joining. Let's see. That's cool. So you've been listening to Abacab by Genesis. The chord progression sounds cool. I'm going to have to listen to that. If I don't know the song by name, but I probably recognize the song by sound. So I'll have to check that out. Yeah. 80s music. I used to poo-poo 80s music, thinking, the overuse of synthesizers was so off-putting to me originally, when really it just made sense that synthesizers opened up a whole vista of sounds and access to multiple instruments. So it makes sense they were used a lot. But the songwriting often was really, really good. And I like me some 80s music as well. That's awesome. So Donidri, you said, seems like even when you borrow chords from another key, the colors still jive. Yes. And that has to do with, that's a good observation, is the borrowed chords, they're all like, borrowed chords come from parallel modes. So if we have the key of C, Ionian, all of the parallel modes are neighbors in the circle of fifths. And I'll do a live stream coming up. I've talked about it in some of the parallel modes videos, but definitely worth dissecting and diving into more here. Why the circle of fifths is structured the way it is. And it's like, this is a compact view and a consolidation of a lot of musical theory patterns behind the scenes. And they all logically build on each other and lead to this arrangement, which is very concise and convenient. But it is helpful to kind of sometimes break this out and reverse engineer what are we even looking at and why are those chords compatible? Why are all of the parallel modes neighbors in the circle of fifths? Why do they share chords and why are they cohesive? And it's due to that behind the scenes theory. So we'll definitely look at that. And that's a great observation. And it's very true. The colors do jive. Yeah, Tangi, I wasn't into synth either, but I do have a new appreciation of synth. So Virtuous Heretic, you said ABACAB, so we can all get a taste. Very cool. So we'll thank you for sharing that link, and I'm gonna listen to it. I think this video might get flagged if I like try to play it here, but yeah, Genesis has some good stuff, and definitely some 80s going on there. So by ear, there are differences between the modes, and certainly by eyesight, there's differences between the modes. And once you can marry those two senses, our hearing and our sight, to really solidify the understanding, that's what it's all about. Especially if you're a visual learner like me, to actually see the patterns, since music is all about patterns, to actually see them is so helpful and solidifies all of these concepts. Let's see. Okay. Okay, let me just see. Just getting my bearings here. And Mike Duman, I wanted, I don't know if I mentioned this one yet, but that's very cool, dabbling with the guitar and finding the inspiration to write music is wonderful. That's like what it's all about. So I'm so glad that you're finding that inspiration, and music theory is truly like inspirational and sparks the imagination. And I talk about this in one of the course lessons, is that, images, music theory is by definition to see sound in images. Images spawn and are a prerequisite for imagination. And as Sir Ken Robinson says, imagination is a prerequisite for creativity. Creativity in the art of songwriting, in music, is the art of songwriting. So all of that to say, that's awesome. And I'm so glad you're here and having fun with music. It's what it's all about. And let's see. Let me just jump through. Oh, John, Sean, if I called you John, which I think I did before, I want to correct that to make sure that I'm saying that right. It's cool spelling of the name Sean, actually. And that is what I wanted to cover tonight as far as modes, and hope you enjoy your Labor Day, if you do happen to have a Labor Day in the country that you're in, and that, hopefully your days are going better than some of the lyrics in this song, in these song examples. Yeah, there's some great music, and you can do so much. Modes open up your palette as a songwriter. I used to think that everything was Ionian mode. In other words, everything was in the key, in a major key. And because so much is, like the blues, you have the 1-4-5. So many songs are in a major key that it can be tempting to think that's all there is. But when it comes to modes, there's a lot more to it. So definitely want to do some of these name that modes more. So if you have any suggestions or recommendations for songs to cover, I'd be interested to do that too, because it's fun to open up the hood on these songs, get into the mind of these songwriters, and see what patterns they're using to come up with the amazing stuff that they do. So thank you for joining. Thank you for nerding out with me about music theory. And